Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's CNCF TAG Environmental Sustainability AI working group or project meeting. I believe this is the third meeting we have about this, but we are picking up work from more or less that folks have been working on in another working group. So there's already quite some work done. So this meeting falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct, which can be summarized to be just excellent to each other. I sent the meeting notes in chat. We don't have like a proper template. That's something that we would need to fix async. But I think from what I'm aware of, most of the contribution is done over this white paper document that I have shared and which the link is also in chat. Since I'm usually not the one most involved in this meeting, probably most of the talking will be done by other folks, but we will see. All right. So maybe to kick things off, what is the current, like what have been we working on the last week, or what is like the state
Yeah,
of the project?
yeah. So just a logistical thing before we start. I think I don't know if we have completely honed in like having a new working group for sustainability and AI. I think the discussion now is that we're collaboratively contributing to this. We don't want many working groups around AI for different tags, and so let's treat this one for now as like a general collaboration between sustainability and AI, and yeah, I would say that's a small logistic thing that I want to call out before we can go into the status. Yeah, does that make sense?
And yeah, yes. So in tech, environmental sustainability, we have working groups and we have projects, and
Yeah,
groups are like a continuous thing, continuous efforts where we also have chairs and roles and a charter, and it's like more formal, and so on. And then we also have projects which I have like a more scoped and scoped sort of like agenda and also very clear deliverables. And since this is about a white paper, this fits the bill of a project, I think, very well.
yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. All right. On my side, I don't think I haven't, to be honest, I have not made much progress last week. But maybe we can summarize what happened last week for folks. So last week and maybe for you also, Leo, because I think it's your first time to join. So we are iterating on the paper. We have introduced a new section about scopes, and there we want to focus on which dimensions do we want to focus on. Like the types of systems is one dimension. There's other, there are multiple types of systems, like data center, we have edge, we have multiple other variants of this. And then we have the AI lifecycle. Training, serving on a high level. There are other components to the AI lifecycle, but where do we address which problem in the AI lifecycle? And then the persona, the data scientist, the infrastructure operator, for serving also other personas, and how to tie back to the AI personas in general. So these are the three dimensions that we have to scope. In each dimension, we have to decide which feature we want to focus on. And so this was like a draft from last time to highlight that. And then we added a section for types of system and personas. And then the user stories also, I see some people suggested some user stories. Well, I mean, you added something, right? So, but this is my view of the world now. I don't know if Huamin or Yuan want to add.
Yeah, I think this is great. The strength of both the AI and the sustainability in a single write-up is the first of the kind. So we probably just focus on the importance persona and use cases, as we can see. And I don't think this is going to be the last version. So if we can just exercise on the first one and make sure that we are on the right track, that will be a very good start, in my opinion. Just like the white paper on AI work group is not meant to be the last one. So there's going to be continuations. So I think the dates is probably more important than the final writing. So my anticipation is that if we are able to publish something by KubeCon this year in November, we have 2 more months to go. Just based on experiences, so for the environmental work tag, the white paper goes rounds of reviews. Let's just say, I forgot how many days it's going to for the first white paper. I believe it's probably going to at least 2 rounds. One is the public review, and then a revision, and then another round of public review. That will take a month or 2 at least. So if we are able to get a very first release in September, potentially we can get the CNCF the final drafts, and they can polish it and publish it by November. Would that be a good timeline we can track? So let's just say we finish it by September, the early September as first draft, and then have the public review in late September in the TAG meeting and also in the work group meeting. And we have the feedback addressed after the first public review for 2 weeks or so. And then we finish that and we send for the CNCF for finalization, so they can publish it as a white paper by November. Is that something reasonable, or just we are looking for different dates?
I mean, I think that would be ideal. I think if we have like the first draft in early September, that would be ideal, because then we have a lot of time to reiterate. The question is like if we would hit, like with the current outline, if we are able to hit the mark, or if we need to make like cuts in terms, for example, like user stories. It's like something maybe we can also push to blog posts or to like just to shorten up.
That's a very good point. So at the moment, I think if you're looking at the white paper, the current drafts, as from the high level, is very on the it does not have lots of CNCF components in it. I'm just kind of concerning because looking at the white paper by the AI group, on the other hand, there's a lot of references to the CNCF projects and also even the talks and activities within the community. In this way, in this draft at the moment, that's very much on the general directions. It could be used anywhere, not just CNCF. And I don't say that is a bad thing. I'm just wondering, should we just explore in a very general direction first in a white paper as the first release, and then we can come up with the more CNCF project level focus as a subsequent publication. And as a Neil is that maybe you can have a blog as a derivative, more focus on the actions and the CNCF ecosystems as the next publication.
Yeah, I like that idea because I think like technologies change very frequently, especially before KubeCon, a lot of new things come up. So maybe for the first version, we want to be more general instead of technology specific. Otherwise, we also need to get like reach agreement with certain communities that might be time consuming too. If they don't want to like officially support or certify the writings, that's very time consuming. So
yeah, that's a very good point. I think that is actually that's a wonderful point. If you get all this consensus, it's going to be very time consuming. So we can also use in the blogs as another ways to be more focused on the technologies.
Yeah, I think I forgot to mention on the status. So how we divided it, we've divided it, and if you go down a bit, maybe or in the skeleton, can you go up a bit, Leo, since you're sharing? Yeah, more towards maybe, yeah, so exactly. So if you look at after scope, what we said, like we want to identify, so scope will help us to focus on which, the problem space is huge. That's the population. What's the sample that we want to focus on? and that scope will help us put the light on the set of problems that we want to focus on, and then there are solutions to these problems generically, and then there are tools and projects in the CNCF landscape or others that solve for these, that provide the solutions. And so I guess what we're saying here is we're saying we want to still say, cover the problem space, cover potential solutions, and potentially look at the landscape as more like an example set versus like this tool provides the solution to all of our problems, right? And so that basically decoupling the solution from the tool, right, is what I'm saying. So we have problems, solutions, and tools that implement the solution. Solutions are our interface if we talk in code. Yeah, so it would make sense for me to hone in onto, I think that at this point in time, we want to make sure that up to the solutions and maybe, up to the solution space, we have the right skeleton to build off and then parallelize. Like, we don't want to block each other on things, but if we know the skeleton, we can probably divide and conquer, and that would help us get more closer to the time constraints that we've defined.
Yeah, I think I tell you that is a very good start. I think this skeleton and division and divide by components is a very good strategy. I just want to ask one more question. Can we just be using the ChatGPT to help us to on the content? We still have a high level outlines, but some of the content can fill in by ChatGPT. I don't think this is a very bad thing as long as we attribute to the the source in the right way and make disclaimers. I think that's could be used.
Some people are how I use ChatGPT. I use it for maybe sometimes idea generation. But I don't use it for writing. Marlo would be a complete antagonist to the like she's like super against. But I mean I'm open to the idea of if it makes sense. I always go and I never take something and for granted from ChatGPT because we're covering partially because we're covering also the topic of hallucinations and the AI landscape so so I'm not against the idea. I think if it helps you or anyone who's writing generate ideas, that would be great. If you what would be great as well is like I mean you have a ton of experience in that space. Yuang have a ton of experience in the AI space. I think if you can train the model on your experience and then have it right.
So what I'm trying to say is that if you're just using the same writing policies from publications, for example, the Nature and the IEEE has their own guidelines on how to use the GPT. So if you are using the same guidelines to generate content, and we put the appropriate disclaimers, I think that's will fill up the job. The downside of the side effects of the contents, the actual valid contents, is still need to be verified by humans. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean that's the way we do things. Like we're not going to say, hey, if this is your section, as long as it addresses what the section is meant to do, how you do it, I would say is irrelevant. Cool. That is to me. Maybe others have different opinions, but to me, as long as I get the outcome I want, I don't care how I got it.
All right.
Yeah,
would that make sense that we can assign like a component owners and also or maybe a lead for certain things? Like for example, I mean hypothetically, I'm just made this up top of my mind. Let's just say for personas, Adele, you could be the lead or the owner of the personas, and then you can ask for inputs and assign tasks. And for use cases, maybe let's just say Yuan, you could be the lead or components owners of the use cases. And Neil, from your perspective, problem space, you have a lot of experiences, and also I can help on the solution space. I mean, this is just totally made up. By no means is like the final. Would that be something actionable?
Yeah, I think we should all collaborate to scope. After scope, problem space is huge, solution space is
Okay.
huge, and I think we can divide and conquer them. But it must be that we all agree, and you know, someone might take the lead on writing things, and then once you, because the real paper starts at problem space and solution space. That problem space might sound small here, but there's it's huge. You know, how do you sustainably serve? What are the challenges? Which part of the stack, which type of system, why is it specific to this persona? And so I guess that would make sense as an approach. If you know, we already have some use cases here on personas, and I think this will take very short time. So if I write the personas, I can probably be finished very soon. Versus someone who's writing the problem space. That is a huge. It would be unfair to that person that they would
Okay.
take on
All right.
the
So
entire.
that's it. We just want to have certain balance of expertise and time. So that's will make our work together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it will take time to drill into the problem space, but once the scope and the personas and the use cases and the types of system will be the guiding light, because once you know who you're writing for and what system demonstrates most of the problems, then you're already focused and zooming in into a particular area versus like leaving it open for everything.
All right.
But yeah, maybe
So,
we can take a note. I don't know. I'm not taking notes. Is someone taking notes?
we can use the transcribes to generate a summary from ChatGPT. We are the AI
Is this your
focused.
next
Yeah.
tool?
I can use it as our next project in the AI group.
We have already the YouTube summarizer. Let's use that to.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm just make a spoiler. So the AI project group, the summarizer group, in the next meeting, we're going to use the graph rack to make a more knowledgeable navigation and correlations of different topics.
Okay, very nice. I want to catch up with you on that, but yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, we can analyze the sustainability of this approach.
Okay, sustainability of the graph rack. Yeah, that's going to be a very good evaluation use case.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the notes. You know, I don't know if I wanted to bring up the notes document that we had. Let me, because we want to type this. Notes. Yeah. So we've been taking notes here, historically speaking, or like the last meeting. Just put the, yeah, and I see August 8th, so I see someone added it. It probably is, Leo, you added that, right? Yeah, so I guess, so from I think I would just try, Vincent last time wanted to hash out, the life cycle to persona mapping, and then I guess we want to fully agree on the skeleton, especially fill the scope. We would like to divide and conquer for problem space. Yeah, and it will need some research as well, right? So this is new, I guess. Once we understand the personas, not all of these problems are probably we're gonna focus on. We can probably like narrow them down again. And then maybe the deadline. That's the most important part. Deadline. Let's put a deadline for November probably. Although that's an aggressive one given the holidays, but I think it's a good start to motivate us. November. Yeah. All right.
Maybe I have a question to this section here with the user stories or personas. Is this something that we will keep in the document, or is this something that we have sort of like work on to help us think about like what we want to write. So these are all aspects that we need to reflect in the white paper.
Yeah. Last time, so this I wrote most of this section, but the counter argument to it was it's very user driven. I'm usually trying to think about the user, but there's also the system aspect to it, and I think this is where Vincent said he's going to try and hash out. We agreed that we could potentially map the AI lifecycle to the personas, which we do in some extent in other papers, but we want to specifically focus here on sustainability. And then that helps ground, at least to Vincent's point, it helps ground the use cases a bit more. I didn't hear, well, I did the mapping, but I think he wants to add more concreteness to it. So what I did here is I added the persona, which part of the life cycle, and what application they would be interested in and why they would care about sustainability. Yeah. So we need to iterate. Oh, Vincent added some. Maybe we should cover the comments on the paper because I haven't read the latest comments on that.
Maybe also as another question, so the outline that we have here, is this already the outline of the white paper, or is this also like kind of like a working document, and then we can take some things and then we move it to the white paper document? So is this like sort of also the reading structure, more or less? Introduction.
It's evolving to the reading structure. I would say it's still work in progress, but it's evolving to that. So we started from the original brainstorm, the original content, and then that was like, hey, we've dumped these things. Now we had some discussions, had notes, and we transformed the notes into this table of contents, and then this table of contents keep evolving as we speak. Like last time, we added the types of systems. Like this was not there, but this will evolve to the real table of content, and I think the paper will be reinvented in that sense. Like once we make use of all or potentially what we need from the original brainstorm content. So this is, think of the original brainstorm content as the appendix and the upper part as the new table of content, and we're taking parts from there if need be. Otherwise we're going to throw it away. So the end result should be whatever remains from the upper part of the story. So you can remove high level brainstorming new to table of content or whatever you want if that's confusing, but the upper part should end up, the end state is that this is the real table of content for the paper, at least how it evolved so far.
All right. Like one option always is to also structure the document alongside the life cycle. So that we have the life cycle as like sections, and then before that we have introduction and so on, what we have.
That's an approach, right? That is exactly what we're discussing. We've discussed like how, so if you structure the life cycle, then how are you catering for the persona, right? And then you want to, that's an approach. We're still discussing if if the current way we're doing it makes sense, or do we want to use the life cycle as the beacon and then tie it to the persona? If that's the case, then we can do that. I think I'm not against it. If that helps.
Yeah,
we
we
could
could
also
also discuss this maybe within the week or so. So because otherwise we will maybe not hit the mark early September to have the first draft. So like both ways I think are fine. As long as
I think Vincent wanted to add something around that space.
Very good.
Let's see if he added some comments. I haven't read the comments, to be honest, so I need to go through the comments to see.
All right. So from what I understood from the discussion is right now that we are more or less like happy with where things are going, that we are on a good track, that we have a structure which we need to discuss, but in general it's going in the right direction, that we need to split up the work. Are we aware of all the things that needs to happen? Sort of in example solution space, I think. So there's like a bunch of question marks, right? So here's like a lot of, and this also I think reads quite well as a first starting point to write more.
I guess one of the things is, as you said, the life cycle thing. If we replace personas or what was life cycle? So this is a persona driven paper now. It can be a life cycle driven paper, like flip the coin. Start with the life cycle and then say, talk about personas maybe. And that is an important decision for this paper. And then probably if we go that approach, I think that approach is we want to standardize both. We want to standardize on the personas of an AI stack and the life cycle of AI. And so that would become an important thing to finalize soon, because that will shape the paper as well, how we talk about things, even in the problem space. Are we talking about a problem for this persona when doing something, or a problem in this stage of the life cycle? Am I training and then I have a problem, or as a data scientist and doing training, I have a problem in how we rate it?
That's a good point. Yes. I mean, we can like combine, or we should combine, obviously, like both things. So even if we have like a persona-driven document, lifecycle still plays a role, and the other way around. So if we go lifecycle way, we can introduce the personas and then say, okay, these personas play a role in these sections of the lifetime, maybe over the entire course or just like during training or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? When you have like the problems, do you hang this up on the lifecycle or on the persona? So yeah.
I added it as an action item. This is something
Yeah.
we have to.
So the current section for personas only has training and serving. And if we want to do like the life cycle one, that the scope must be bigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aggregation and things like this as well, I would say.
Yeah, it's gonna have to. Yeah, data prep and other things needs to be included as well. But and then so again goes back to the use case, which is why the use case section exists. Do we want this paper to also focus, because sustainability becomes important more in the light of generative AI, large language models, and NLP and whatnot? Do we want to be generic on AI in general and machine learning, or do we want to focus on large language models, or do we want even to drop these two things and just say, I want to build an AI application, so mostly I am using an existing model, so mostly I care about serving more or less. So that these questions become important as well.
I would say that it's something that we need to write in the scope or define in the scope. I think it makes sense. I mean, this depends like how much time we have, right? It would be good to capture more. But I think like the entire AI space, probably it's not.
Oh, and by the way, that's Juan, to your point, this was in the scope. So this is what we last time decided. We said we want to focus on out of the life cycle. It's not the
Okay.
entire life cycle. Yes, to the exactly. And here, yeah, emphasis on training and service and serving was the consensus.
Okay.
We can change that, but I think we need to focus also. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have preference on this. Yeah, as long as we have time to finish before November.
Like, what do you see,
I
folks,
think
now? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I think this is already quite a lot of content, and if you are quite a lot of things in the skeleton, and if you are providing solid content, I think that 1 month is a kind of a stretch. So let's just stay with what we have here for the scope.
Yeah. I mean, there's like also the option to have like an extended version of this document for next KubeCon as well.
Yeah.
So that we can pick up the work and then put it again into another document and then have like a more holistic view with more time if we like.
Let me ask this. Are we writing this for the Mistrals, the OpenAIs of the world, or are we writing this for the enterprises looking to deploy mid to small size models in their environment and build applications?
What's your opinion? I think from our perspective, because this is cloud native, specifically for CNCF, so the kind of community is already known. For OpenAI and Mistral, there's something we do not know.
No, I'm saying like because training becomes an important problem, especially with sustainability for people who are training these large language models, and how they train them becomes a factor, like and it has an impact on carbon footprint and whatnot. But this is a problem that only exists if you have thousands
Run the
of
very large models.
H100s and yeah, versus smaller enterprises. How can we solve for that scale? And so different things will shape, technically speaking, when talking about these.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, in that perspective, the use cases and the solution spaces may have a different variations. For small enterprises using small models or just train small models, the sustainability or the efficiency of data centers or efficiency of technologies may not be hugely important versus the large model providers like a Mistral, OpenAI. The sustainability impact probably is even more important. The heats, the cooling, the usage, it's going to have a huge impact on the operation. Maybe we can just list it, the personas and solution space and problem space as a mapping matrix to see what's the best usability between the user and the technologies, for them to choose.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for the larger ones. Like, how do we, because these people training large language models are the ones who's going to have most impact on the planet, I would say, doing the training, and so would make sense to focus on that use case. Yeah, that's
Also the
already
users. Yeah, I think once the model gets in training, it's definitely a big picture. The influence and the usage of the models is also have our consequences on the overall picture. So if your CNCF and CNCF projects and adopt the AI models, AI usage, then the more we can reduce the impacts by reduce the amounts of traffic, reduce the prompt length, or fine-tune the prompts to be more concise, more specific, and also maybe the way that we reduce the batch size, things like, I mean, the solution space for end users and the solution space for the model providers and the trainers could be a good start.
It's different, but it's different. The solution space are different. I guess the questions that we are trying to answer stuck is, how do I sustainably train large language models and serve large language models, or how do I sustainably build AI applications? Finishing this paper, what answers or what insight do I gain as a reader? Or what insight do we want people to gain? Like, after reading this paper, you should know the trade-offs and the challenges of training large language models and their impact on the planet. That could be one way. And that could be, I'm thinking about, I'm writing this paper for Facebook. I'm writing it. Go ahead, Vincent. And hi.
Just a remark, because I mean, I don't want to kind of prevent the debate, but just a thought on this, right? There's a very limited number of corporations in this world today who can actually make a business out of model training. Yeah, and this number is going to go down. If you actually look at how an OpenAI or a Cohere or a Perplexity does training today, they have team of super well-trained engineers who do specific custom networking, custom hardware, custom orchestration. These people don't actually need help from CNCF to architect stuff. Yeah, they are the cutting edge of the technology, and they do custom, and it's not replicable. The use case I think we kind of catering for is more the enterprise to get kind of maybe 32, 64, 800 max, and they have to literally support 15,000 people with these resources, And the way they are looking at is, well, I've got to support developers, I've got to support people doing testing, I've got to support production workload. And it's very, very difficult to, to slice GPU, to manage dynamically the resource and that type of stuff, right? And, all studies point to the fact that consumption, which is mostly inference, will actually be 80 to 90% of total AI in a very, very near future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
now
that's exactly
yeah.
the point. That's exactly the discussion that we're having. Before you joined, we were saying, like, should we focus on enterprises, mid to small size training, inferencing, and even the use case, what these small versus, like, do we want to focus on the providers, the 4, the 5, the big, and raise awareness on the impact of doing this kind of behavior. So this would show the extremes. These are like the two sides of the coin.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess what Wamin wrote in the chat, there's the provider side, and then we have, small enterprises are also providers. So we can focus on maybe providers, but mid-scale providers, because that's what probably will happen in the wild.
Yeah. It depends what you mean by a provider, right? Because I mean, I give you a use case. I'm working with 2 Ministry of Defense who spent literally $80 million in NVIDIA GPU.
They're providers.
And they are a provider. Yeah, they are a provider to 60 different development teams who are actually building some kind of AI code for their specific needs, right? Whether it's driving a bot or helping to satellite imaging or whatever. Yeah, and so, I agree with the concept of provider, but just bear in mind that, like today, provider, we see system integrator, we see telco have become providers, we see big enterprise. I mean, we're literally building a GPU cloud with a big financials in the US as well as we speak. And so a lot of people have become provider because, actually paying for AWS GPU costs an arm and a leg, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I guess the question is, even if so, and then maybe, and there's, I think we're still in brainstorming phase, so I'm asking this. If we consider, like, if we are writing for the open AIs of the world versus writing for enterprises who are also providing infrastructure to build AI application, when it comes to the machine learning and AI lifecycle, and us discussing the challenges, we're still going to almost discuss the same things, or is there like that big of a difference in the things that we will be discussing? Like, what's the difference in the problem space that we will have by focusing on enterprises versus saying we're focusing on training as a whole, regardless of who's doing it? Because potentially people doing training have infrastructure, and it could be very large infrastructure, it could be like I'm not sure if putting them out of scope will help us scope better, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe putting the 4 out of scope, like just from a persona perspective.
They are fundamentally the same problem, right? Even if I'm a small enterprise and I've got 16 A100, I have like fundamentally the same problem, but I want to share the resource and optimize their use across
I think it's even optimization will even be better for the large ones because they have the economies of scale. Like, they can density pack many things and share GPUs and whatnot, and thus resulting in lower footprint. Yeah. Okay, I think so. I don't think there's then value in dismantling and focusing on, like, I think last time, Vincent, you wanted to do a mapping between, I think we were discussing personas and life cycle, and you wanted to do a mapping of so what we have now is more focused on the persona, but we said, like, we want to focus on the life cycle, and last time I think we focused on training and serving. Probably we want to break that down even further, or do you have some other ideas?
No, I mean, that's the life cycle. I mean, if you want to be to look at the whole thing of, you could even include the data. So data tuning, then obviously the serving, and we can start to break the cycle into steps as well, typically.
Okay, so I know we don't have much time. So what should be our next step here? I'm trying to write milestones. Should we finalize the scope and the skeleton by next week? And then before you joined, Vincent, we were discussing where can we divide and conquer in the paper, and I was like, I mentioned that we have to hone in and finalize the skeleton, and then, or at least the initial version, because the problem space is huge, and then we can divide in the problem space and solution space amongst us.
Yeah.
And so what would be our next milestone to conquer this paper?
I mean, my expectation is we are trying to finalize the problem statement and the scope, right? Because if you want a skeleton, I mean, these are the two things we need before having. But generally, if we can review this and confirm, I mean, like to me, it doesn't matter who does it, but it's a good practice to even start to have like a full skeleton, at least one flow, so at least people can comment and question or counter propose. Otherwise, it's just, if you're trying to build a skeleton with 20 people, my experience is you kind of never get there. So
yeah, we're not 20 people. I think we're 5 people now, all in all. It's growing, but
it's
okay, yeah. Then maybe like first milestone would be to finalize this by next week. We should have an introduction introduction. Usually what I do is I write the introduction last, but I understand that we have to
I tend to do this as well. Yeah, but this being said, so I made some change, especially like following some of the comments. So I try to add some content on the problem statement. I've also added the regulatory issues as well. And so, it's a little bit more, has more flesh than it used to have, as you can see from the yellow paragraph, right? So I think right now is, I would just suggest everyone just go add your comments, what you see as fundamentally missing in that thing, and then let's just take this as a starting point. Yeah.
And everyone should have autonomy and feel free to so my rule is if I am looking for feedback from someone, I will not accept my feedback. Like if I write feedback, I will not accept it and merge it for myself. But for others, I think if it makes sense, you can merge it so that we have a clean slate because the comment section will be large. So I think that the idea here is, if this is a repo, you're all approvers, but don't approve your stuff.
I guess. I mean, look, I didn't close anything as I did those changes as well. So because I wasn't sure who would be closing, but I thought at least I wanted everyone to review.
Yeah, if you have a question, like if there's a question in there, I think it makes sense. But as long as like at least one person, or we don't have a way to say 2 people reviewed this, and so if we leave it all open, the experience is that it will only grow and it will be hard to review. So one person, as long as one person reviewed and provided comments or feedback, I think it can be closed.
Yeah, I mean, like usually, like if it's like very obvious, you can close it. If there's like a back and forth, then it's good to close it like in the meeting, so everybody has like time to say, no, there's like one thing I wanted to write or something, and then we can close it together in the meeting, usually.
Yeah.
But for like typos and stuff, there's like no need usually, right? To have like a longer discussion in the meeting.
Okay. Then maybe next time we should close all the comments on introduction, problem, statement, and skeleton. But to close all the comments, people should have read it, I guess, beforehand. And so that best effort, I know everyone is busy, but I think that's, if we want to close, I don't think it's going to happen in the meeting immediately, because a big item of discussion will stay a big item of discussion until reviewed thoroughly. Otherwise, we're just closing stuff. Yeah. So it has to be reviewed asynchronously before the meeting. Cool. I guess we have our first milestone then, finalize the scope and problem statement. And then I guess the next milestone is like focus on the problem space in training and serving. What are the problems? And I think here we could use a lot of experience from folks in the call. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, sounds good. What's the venue for this? Like, where are we publishing this paper under? I know we have a lot of different groups, so just want to double check.
It will be the so like the CNCF AI, I think it was published, let's see, we published it in the CNCF website as a report under reports. There should be one under like this one will be a report, one of the reports, and we can add references to it from both like tag runtime and sustainability and the green. And also I think this is something you're interested in, Vincent, is you have collaborations also from the Green Software Foundation where you're leading, which can also reference this paper.
Yep.
Would you agree, Leo, since you're from the other side?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure you can have a couple of contributing groups, right? Not a big deal. Even better.
Usually, right, we publish this at the CNCF, and then you can write like a very short blog post of a paragraph or two at the GSF or wherever, or at the TAG ENV blog, for example, and then just
Don't worry, I'll help you advertise. I have a lot of KubeCon submissions on the topic.
Also,
So we need to get the paper. The first one is the KubeCon daily, by the way. I've already submitted. So it's in December. So I was like, okay, I've got enough runway to have something at least in draft. I'm not
no,
looking
I think the outcome should be like, and
yeah.
I've been not very active submitting talks, but if people want to utilize the chance, the white paper is ripe ground for collaborating, actually, again, pushing talks. Yeah, awesome. So one last thing, maybe we should add an authors section to the paper so that people who know who's contributing know people want that for themselves and also for others. It's a motivator to contribute to the paper. So maybe we can add that.
Usually have like a header document or like a header file where it's like authors, referenced issues, meeting docs, meeting cadence, and I can add this after the meeting.
Awesome. Okay. All right.
Good.
All right. Very great.
Feel free to skip my name for now until my contribution becomes more significant. Yeah, I'm more comfortable like adding my own name after my contributions. So usually.
I'm pretty sure we need a lot of input from you on the serving.
I'll try.
We haven't gone into that, but I've got a lot of questions on the evolution of the array and how we can actually standardize the approach. And I think it's very, very key to this discussion as well. And yeah.
All right. Sounds 100%. Good.
Awesome.
Where do we usually track the milestones? Or this is the first one, right? So we don't have like a...
No, we don't. So we have multiple boards to track. I would say we only have 2 milestones now. Milestone 1 is finalized scope, problem statement, and skeleton. Milestone 2 is, but this is like the technical milestone. The actual milestone is what Wamin talked about at the beginning, is like submission by, like that's the result, that we have a submission. But to get there, we need to finish certain things.
So maybe for now, we just add it to the meeting notes. That should be fine, right? So there's like, we can also open up issues, but I don't think there's the need for it. If we have like weekly goals, that's probably...
Yeah, we can keep it in a table, in a doc for people who are joining. I think that's enough. If we have to put it on a dashboard somewhere, because this doc is public, this doc is accessible to all people who are contributing. Maybe we can also put, issues in both dashboards, if that makes sense. If we have a concrete, we already have the AI project dashboard. We can put it also on the sustainability dashboard. I don't know if you're how you're using or tracking, but that could be the case. For now, I think
I mean,
we can.
yeah, maybe for the overall like things, it could be good, but not for the weekly stuff. I don't think that's needed. For the
No,
overall,
I'm talking about the overall stuff.
yeah, maybe, but I mean, we can also wait for Marlo to decide this. I don't really have like strong opinions, to be honest.
Okay.
As
long as
long
we're making progress, yeah.
as progress is made, and as long as we are kind of aware of things, and I mean, we have the meeting notes and everything. Everybody can follow up. We can see the status in the document. So I think that's cool. I'm happy with this. Right.
Yeah, I think I see people. Yeah, so one thing that we did last time was add people. I think it's the other doc, because here, for example, you see it's me in the doc and making the changes. We added people. So if you put if you press the share button, can you press it? I guess, yeah, I guess we want the main contributors to also be in here, like to when they do contributions, we you know who did this change in this document last time, so you're able to go and ask them questions like, I don't understand why you made this change, and can you please explain it to me, if need be, right? We did this for the not the notes, but we did this for the paper already, and I added, I think I added I asked yeah, I asked to add all the Yuan is there, I think Vincent is there, and Wamin is there. You are there, and Marlo is there. So
Yeah. I mean, we can copy over the access to track it easier. That's a good point. Yeah.
logistics.
I mean, like everybody has already added the access, but I get the point about the tracking the things, right? Yeah. Let me do that after the meeting.
Well, I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you. I know everyone is super busy, so we are optimistic, but it doesn't always catch the deadlines that we put. But it's good that we have interest in the topic, and I think people are here because they're interested. So let's get this going.
Sounds good. Any last things to discuss? We have 3 minutes left. All right. And thanks everybody for joining. I will stop sharing my screen and stop the recording. And the meeting will be uploaded to YouTube sometime later today.